Welcome to the water table, where I'm on a quest to taste every sparkling water in the world. And today we're heading to New York to try out Howell's New York Seltzer. Now, I have reviewed a number of different waters, European waters, sparkling mineral waters, spring waters from different parts of the United States, other parts of the world. And this one is one that you will probably not find on any of those fancy water channels that are reviewing the sparkling waters at nice restaurants and so forth, because this is a municipal water. This doesn't have terroir. It doesn't have minerality that's coming out of the ground from some kind of artesian well or spring or anything like this. This is tap water, municipal water that goes through a reverse osmosis process. It's pretty much stripped down to being completely naked, flavorless water. And so then what's the point? Why would anyone drink this? You drink this if you really like carbonation. And of course, some people use this for making mixed drinks and other things of that sort. But others of you who've watched this channel know that I am not a water snob. I'm not just limited to certain kinds of sparkling waters or mineral waters or waters from certain types of springs. Now, I will be honest, my favorite waters in the world are waters with a terroir, with a specific source, an incredible artesian source of some sort. But for me, my guilty pleasure is a really strong carbonation-forward water. You can't have a strong enough carbonation for me. And if you're one of those people, if you like really strong carbonation, this is a water you might want to try out. And that's actually how I got to this. Now, I've always liked Topo Chico because of its really strong carbonation, and it hasn't been available for a while at the time of my recording this. Perhaps it will be later at the time that you're watching the video. But I went online and I started searching on my favorite search engines, and I looked at a bunch of articles and I asked the question, what are the highest carbonated waters that you can buy, that you can find anywhere? The waters that have just the most aggressive carbonation around. Over and over and over again, I found reviewers and different people claiming that this is at the top of the list. Howell's New York Seltzer. And so in every one of my videos, I try to tell three stories. I tell the story of the water, its source, where it came from, and the source here, I don't have to spend much time on. It comes from a municipal source, not from any fancy spring or anything like that. But what about the story of the business itself? The name of the water itself is Howell's New York Seltzer. So it's named after a guy whose nickname was Hal. His real name was Irving Hershkowitz. He was known to everyone who knew him, though, as Hal. And he was a street salesman who built a beverage distribution empire in New York City. And he never had a desk, according to rumors. He was just out selling all the time. And his sons, after his death, named this water after him. So again, it's a municipal water. It's from upstate New York. And it's carbon filtered, and it's gone through a reverse osmosis process where pretty much it strips 99% of the total dissolved solids out of this. Incredibly low minerality. So at the end of this, I will take my home completely inaccurate TDS sensor and we'll put it in the water, and we will check and see if there's any level of minerality at all. I would expect it to be something like in the 30s or the 20s, or maybe it'll be among the lowest of anything that I've found so far, because this is not about terroir. It's not about the soil in which it came or the minerals that were absorbed or pressured into the water. All of that's been stripped out. This is a naked water. This is about the carbonation. And if you like strong, aggressive carbonation and you like that taste and that feel, that's what you'll get. So this kind of water, you'd put this in the same category as something like a LaCroix or a Polar, or even like a Great Value Seltzer in terms of the water itself. It's just water that's been purified. They've made sure that they got any bad stuff out of the water, but they've also torn all of the good stuff and the good minerality out of it, because the total dissolved solid and the minerality is not the main character in this. Carbonation is the main character. Pretty much zero sodium, pretty much zero minerals, pretty much zero TDS. That's the water here. So then what about the flavor? Well, it's not about flavor. Again, it's about the bubbles. In fact, when I was reading on their website, here's what they said. Flavor, optional. Bubbles, mandatory. The kind that makes your eyes water. It doesn't fight back. It's just water, he'd say. So they market specifically on the sharpness and the aggressiveness of the bubble. And this is your original New York seltzer. I understand that there's a strong Jewish tradition around seltzer water that emerged in this part of the country, and this has emerged out of that culture and that world. My understanding is that the seltzers, people liked such strong seltzers that you'd put it under high pressure, and sometimes they'd serve it and sell seltzers in these glass bottles. But if you have that high pressure, the bottles are more prone to breaking. Maybe that's why this is sold in plastic. Now, carbonation does not hold as long in plastic bottles. In fact, some of the bottles, not Howell's in particular, but some of the others, like store brand seltzers that are sold in bottles, they will say that it's best used within 45 days, and it can actually go flat or closer to flat in a bottle. So this one, I checked to make sure this is pretty new. It's not something that's been sitting around in some warehouse for months or years, so it should still have a nice strong carbonation to it. And I'm just ready to go ahead and dive in. Let's go ahead and check this out. Notice that I expected it to be very aggressive carbonation, so completely different. I think the last video that I was doing, some of the last ones, I was doing the Hilden from the United Kingdom, and then I did a French one. I did Avian sparkling water, and you open it up and you just see a few tiny bubbles kind of bounce up to the top. Very dainty, tiny. This is the opposite. In some ways, culturally, this is like US meets French, or US meets a refined European status. This is loud and aggressive and obnoxious in a good way. I'm an American, so I like a little bit of obnoxiousness. It's part of who I am. And so you can see that aggressiveness, bubbles. There is no consistency in bubble size at all, I will tell you. When I look at this in the bottle, there are tons of different sizes. I see big bubbles. I see medium bubbles. I see small bubbles. It really is all over the place. And it's alive. It's like this water is dancing and moving around. The carbonation is moving around. If I smell it, I should smell nothing. Oh, I forgot. When you have a very low TDS, sometimes it can be sensed and it can smell a little bit sweet. And this does actually have a sweetness whenever I smell it. And it's also just the liveliness of the bubbles. So let's give it a try. Yep, there's definitely no strong minerality to it. It has the illusion of sweetness that comes from no minerality in it, and it's a good aggressive carbonation. Although I will say that this first taste, was not as aggressive as what a Topo Chico out of a bottle tastes like. Maybe it's because Topo Chico holds the carbonation longer. I'm not sure. But I can feel it on my cheeks. It's an aggressive carbonation. It's definitely on the higher end of carbonation. I will say that I'm surprised, though. I was expecting it to be really strong and aggressive, exploding in my cheeks when I drank it, and it didn't come off that way. It's not that aggressive of a carbonation, at least not to me, but this is coming from a guy who can't get enough carbonation. It is definitely on the high carbonation side, and I like it. I will say that my ideal water is a really high carbonation with some kind of terroir or minerality, some kind of flavor in there that I can pick up at the same time. So this is something, though, that I can appreciate. And I even had to pause when I was speaking because it causes you to belch a little bit because it's high carbonation. I guess that's the true sign of how much carbonation is in there, is how it's affecting your body when you drink it. And so it definitely affected me. I'm going to go ahead and pour a little more in here. And before we finish up, just for fun, we will turn on this TDS sensor, and it should show hardly anything. Now, I have found natural spring waters with a really low total dissolved solid, something like rainforest that I tried, where the water, it's coming from a place with a lot of rain. It's working its way through the soil very quickly, getting into that aquifer, into that spring, and finding its way back out. So it's not spending a lot of time there. It's not under a ton of pressure. Maybe it's around a rock that doesn't release its minerals as aggressively. And so I have had some low TDS waters that come from springs, but this should be on the very low level. And to my surprise, it actually is showing up as a TDS of 74. So that's a little bit interesting. 74 is a little bit higher than I expected, but I will tell you that in my home municipal water, whenever it comes right out in the small town that I live in, it is about a 60 to 70 right out of the sink. And then I have a home filter that filters the water, and it can get down to about a 30. So it's interesting to me, though, that there is a little bit of total dissolved solids, but I will tell you there's another possibility, because I did record another video of a water with a TDS of about 300, and that was right before this. And I don't know if I cleaned out the glass that much, so it's possible there's a little bit of the TDS from the other source that's finding its way in here. Not sure about that. Regardless, it's a very low TDS water. Carbonation is the main character. And if you like just a simple municipal water under high carbonation, a seltzer water, this is one for you to give a try.